There is a story from the set of The Shining that perfectly encapsulates the terrifying psychology of Stanley Kubrick. They were shooting a simple scene, Scatman Crothers explaining the shine to a young Danny Lloyd. It was dialogue, it wasn't a stunt, it wasn't a special effect, yet Kubrick made them film it 148 times. By the end, Crothers, a grown man and a veteran actor, was weeping. He cried out, "What do you want, Mr. Kubrick?" Kubrick sat behind the camera, stone-faced, and simply said, "I want it perfect." This was not sadism. It was a philosophical stance. Stanley Kubrick believed that human beings are naturally clumsy, emotional, and imprecise. He believed that acting was a layer of artifice that actors use to protect themselves. To get to the truth, the raw, uncomfortable reality, he had to break the actor. He had to exhaust them until they were too tired to act, leaving only pure behavior. Most directors try to capture a performance. Kubrick tried to capture a psychological breakdown. This is the first lesson of the obsessive mind. Repetition is not about practice, it is about erosion. He eroded the ego of his collaborators until they became mere instruments in his symphony. He viewed a film set not as a collaborative space, but as a battlefield where he was fighting a war against error. His need for control extended to the very physics of light itself. When he filmed Barry Lyndon, a period piece set in the 18th century, he refused to use electric lights. He wanted the film to look like an oil painting come to life. He wanted the actors to be lit only by candlelight. But standard movie cameras were blind in such low light. A normal director would have compromised and used a lamp. Kubrick did not compromise. He found out that NASA had developed a special lens, the Zeiss Planar 50mm 0.7, to take pictures of the dark side of the moon. There were only 10 in existence. Kubrick bought 3 of them. He then completely modified his cameras to accept this alien glass. The result was a film that looked like nothing else in history. Images that shimmered with a ghostly, natural glow. This reveals the motivationairy distinction between the professional and the master. A professional works within the limits of his tools. A master redesigns the tools to fit his vision. Kubrick teaches us that technical limitations are often just failures of imagination. If the tool doesn't exist, you build it. If the lens is in space, you bring it down to earth. This obsession with detail allowed him to essentially travel through time. In 1968, a year before man landed on the moon, Kubrick released 2001, A Space Odyssey. The film depicted space travel with such rigorous scientific accuracy that conspiracy theorists still believe Kubrick faked the moon landing footage for the US government. He hired NASA engineers, not Hollywood set designers, to design the ships. He predicted video calls, tablet computers, and artificial intelligence that could beat humans at chess. He didn't guess the future, he calculated it. He understood that the future is just the logical extension of the present, minus the error. By removing the Hollywood fluff, the sound in space, there is no sound in a vacuum, the dramatic explosions, he created something that felt like a documentary from the future. This is the power of cold logic. Kubrick removed sentimentality from his work. He looked at the universe as a cold, indifferent machine, and he filmed it with a cold, indifferent camera. While this makes his films feel distant to some, it creates a sense of awe. He respected the intelligence of the audience enough to show them the silence of the void rather than filling it with noise. But the cost of this omniscience was a life of paralyzing anxiety. Kubrick was terrified of the chaos of the real world. He refused to fly in airplanes. He refused to drive over 30 miles per hour. He lived in a fortress-like estate in England and rarely left. He would have his assistants measure the width of his doorways to the millimetre to ensure his crates would fit. He would write manuals on how to open his mail. He was a man who tried to micromanage reality because he was terrified of what would happen if he let go. The same brain that could organize 1,000 extras in Spartacus could not handle the unpredictability of a simple car ride. This is the paradox of control. The more you try to control your environment, the smaller your world becomes. You build walls to keep the chaos out, but those same walls lock you in. Kubrick created entire universes in his films, but he lived in a box. His final film, Eyes Wide Shut, took 400 days to shoot, the longest continuous shoot in cinema history. He died days after screening the final cut. It is a fitting end. The film is a dreamlike exploration of secrets, masks, and the unknowability of the people we love. After a lifetime of trying to know everything, of trying to light every shadow with NASA lenses, his final message was about the mystery that can never be solved. Kubrick's legacy is a challenge to every creator. He asks us, how much do you care? Do you care enough to do 100 takes? Do you care enough to invent a new lens? Do you care enough to suffer for the difference between good and perfect? But he also serves as a warning. Perfection is a mountain with no summit. You can climb it your entire life, you can sacrifice your sanity and your peace, and you will still die leaving the work unfinished. The Motivationairy finds the balance. Strive for the perfection of the work, but accept the imperfection of the life.